You're watching Commodity Champions. I'm Manisha Gupta, and we'll talk about diamonds now, which are glittering and how. If you look at 2022, we saw prices trade at all-time highs, and the demand was stronger as well. And then it was in 2023 and 24 when we saw the prices decline and demand take a slight backseat as well. But 2025 has come back quite strong. Joining us now to take the discussion forward is Susan Jacques. She's President and CEO, GIA. I also have with me Pritesh Patel, who is Senior VP and Chief Operating Officer at the GIA. Thank you so much for joining us here on our CNBC studios. Susan, to you first, and 2025 has started on a very strong note. There's a lot of campaign happening, a lot of conversation. Natural diamonds are back in scene. How are you looking at this year?
You know, it's been a difficult few years in the German jewelry industry. 2021 was a little bit of an aberration coming out of COVID, when travel was non-existent, dining out was not what it used to be, and the jewelry industry actually had its best years ever. There was a slowdown since then, but we're seeing some signs of improvement, and we're delighted at that.
When you look at numbers, and Pritesh, this one is to you, I mean, of course, we've only seen half of this year yet, but the way it is picking up, how does the second year seem to you?
Well, I think the U.S., specifically the U.S. market, seems to be doing okay so far in the first half of the year. People are still optimistic about the second half of the year. They're continuously looking good as the markets are doing very well. So we anticipate that similar trend going into the second half of the year as well.
Susan, you are in India, and that tells us the importance of India on the map of diamonds right now, from being from cutting and polishing diamonds to a consumer, and the second largest that is. What's your sense on the demand growth here, and what are you anticipating?
You know, I think India has historically always been very culturally accepting of diamonds, and from diamonds being the primary source from the 4th century till the 16th century, but diamonds have always been a culturally important part of the jewelry of the Indian communities. And we're very excited. I mean, over 20 years, it's gone from being 2% of global demand to right now about 11%, and the second largest market in the world. And so I think the US market is still 55% of natural diamond sales occur in the US, but India has such an opportunity to continue to grow and really appreciate the beauty of jewelry.
So when you talk about 11%, Pritesh, what geographies are we looking at in India? Is it still about metros, or do you see a lot of aspirational demand also coming in from perhaps tier 2, tier 3 cities in India?
What we hear from our teams in there is that it's not only in the tier 1 cities, but tier 2 and tier 3 cities are picking up as well. You're seeing more demands specifically in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So I think it's all around the things. There's pockets in southern India as well as in northern India and the western side of it as well. So it's going across all the cities.
All right, yeah, well, absolutely. There's a lot of aspiration in India, Susan, and we've seen those numbers come in. Talk to us about the year that is. You know, we've seen a couple of years of disruption because of lab-grown diamonds. Would you say that the markets kind of have settled now because there are buyers for this segment and then there are buyers for that too?
I think, you know, both will coexist. I'm a big believer that there are clients for both. For GIA, the criticality is ensuring consumer confidence. That's why we exist. Our mission is to ensure the confidence in gems and jewelry, and trying to dispel some of perhaps the consumer confusion that I think is in the marketplace today. But there is, through advanced technology, thankfully, the ability for lab-grown diamonds to be produced in gem quality today. But there is nothing like the rarity of natural diamonds and the magic of that particular treasure of Mother Nature.
And that brings us to a very, very important question. And this is about you changing the way the natural diamonds are graded and the way lab-growns are graded. What really brought to that?
You know, back in the 1950s, when GIA came up with the 4 C's of diamonds, so the color, the clarity, the cut, and the carat weight, it was because of the continuum of color and clarity that natural diamonds were found within. And what we've seen over the last couple of years in particular is laboratory-grown diamonds. 95% of them today are actually grown in very, very narrow bands, the rarest of rare. colorless and very, very high clarity VVS or flawless. If they're not grown that way, they're actually high pressure, high temperature treated to be in those categories. And so for us, it doesn't relate to the continuum of color and clarity that the scale of 4Cs was originated for.
And has the market accepted that? What are the conversations like?
I think we've had a lot of conversations, and I'll defer to Pritesh to speak to it, but a lot of conversations with our clients, with retail customers, with consumers as well, just ensuring that they understand. I think a lot of diamonds today in the marketplace, lab-grown and natural, are being sold as the same. Now, optically, chemically, physically, they are the same, but they are grown very, very differently. And I think the importance that we feel is making consumers make an educated decision based on the facts and understanding the differentiation between the two categories.
Oh, absolutely. So, Pritesh, as this comes to you, would you say that the markets have accepted that? Because, 15, 20 years ago, when I bought perhaps my first diamond, there was no certification. I do not have a certificate for that. But in last decade or so, well, yes, it has picked up quite strongly in India as well. And now a change in certification.
I think market so far, since we made an announcement, it's been very positive. We have been hearing from actually both sides of the aisle all of our clients who submits for the natural grading certification as well as the laboratory grown. There's a lot of debate, but overall, if I had to say, a majority of them have accepted. Their understanding of it, how the differentiations are in the same nomenclature that was created for the natural diamond 4Cs do not apply today, especially with the technology product the laboratory grown diamonds are. And us coming up with a different nomenclature will help consumer get educated.
Clearly. Susan, when you look at overall numbers then, and I was reading a De Beers report which says that the Indian diamond demand from where it stands right now perhaps could double by 2030, 2035. Do you see that stronger demand emerging?
I think that, again, it comes to educating consumers and consumers understanding there are many ways to spend your discretionary income. And I always talk about the fact that diamond is not a need product. However, it's an emotional need, and it's bought for the most important milestones in people's lives. And I think there is a strong demand with the jewelry culture of the Indian communities for that to continue to grow. I think 50% of purchases happening in jewelry today, diamond jewelry today, are happening in people under 35 years old. And so I think as the millennials and Gen Z come of age, there's a burgeoning middle class, and there's that desirability for luxury products. And I think we will continue to see growth in it, for sure.
Just taking that piece out, Pritesh, there's a lot of wealth creation that we've seen happen in Asian markets, especially India as well. And the spend is on the higher side for luxury products, including diamonds as well. So on one side, we have the smaller pointers, and on the other side, there are these bigger stones doing well too.
Yep.
How do you see both of those markets, and what's your sense on growth for both?
I think there will be growth on both sides. We have seen similar things happen in other gem material like emeralds and rubies, where there's a natural product and then there's a synthetic products that come, and they both coexist. Pearl is another example of it. So I think both of them is going to coexist in the market as the differentiation in the pricing happens. What we're going to see is that there is a clear distinction of people who is going to aspirational product that on the higher end is going to continue to grow. At the same time, the younger generation is who couldn't afford to get it, and they'll be able to get affordability, and they'll be stepping into that part. And at some day, they will aspire to go into the larger natural diamond sector as well.
Susan, you're in India, and I keep pushing that point because I do understand that just so much work about natural diamonds is being done in India now because, one, it's a huge population, there's a lot of wealth being created, and there are buyers here. When it comes to campaigning, marketing, creating awareness, how are you working all of that in India?
You know, for GIA, we are an independent organization, and so our role is very different than perhaps a retailer, a manufacturer, or a miner.
Diamond Council, for that matter.
Absolutely. But working together collaboratively, I think for all of us, the consumer confidence is critical. And so how do we ensure consumer confidence in this product category and a full understanding of what people are buying so that they can make educated decisions? And that's the criticality for us as an organization.
So when you look at India, would you say that the awareness is increasing, growing, people understand the diamond?
I think there is, and I do think that you've got incredible retailers here that work really hard to make sure that they are educating consumers. I do think that you've got a lot of pure play, lab-grown businesses starting up as well. In the American market, there was very strong adoption. I think one of the points that I would hope people take away is understanding in diamond-producing countries, the lives impacted by the mining and the mining companies giving back to the communities is really, really important. And Botswana is the poster child for that. When diamonds were discovered there in 1966, there were 6 kilometers of paved roads. Today, there are thousands of kilometers, and the free education, the free medical, all of that came about because of natural diamonds. And so as you buy a product, I think understanding the impact it's having on the world is an important piece to also understand.
Welcome back. You've joined us here at Commodity Champions, where we are discussing diamonds with the GIA team, who's visiting us here in CNBC studios. And we're talking about diamonds and especially the Indian demand and aspirations going forward. Just coming back to India yet again, and there's this whole conversation about charges and then making charges and the whole calculation of how diamond jewelry comes to you. That's not the case really when you look at various other international markets, not in case of US where diamond jewelries are sold at an MRP, or China for that matter. Do you see India changing?
I'm not the most expert in this Indian market, but if you look at the other examples of the US, for example, I think there will be an opportunity for people to look at the value added that gets into the jewelry of it is building on the natural diamond or laboratory-grown diamond, the gold or silver or platinum that gets added into it. And people look at jewelry in many of the other markets as a store of value.
As a piece of art, perhaps.
Yes, a piece of, correct.
Not the quantity of gold or the diamond
correct.
Or the making charges. Or
absolutely, and it's a lot of times it's an emotional purchase. It's passed it on to generations. In the United States, it's been used as wealth, that especially the diamond jewelry gets passed on to generations, similar to what happens in India with the gold jewelry. So I think that trend will change as people's demographics change, their ability to purchase at a higher price point. Those things will change.
Susan, when overall, internationally, do you see demand now coming back? Especially US, you said, is improving. It's coming back in China. Middle East seems like another very, very strong growing market.
I think there are a lot of emerging markets for this product. I think South America, very concentrated in colored stones because that's a lot of what they mine there. I think in Africa, I think that in Asia and India, all of these increasing middle class have the desirability, I think, for luxury products, and I think we'll see it grow. I think China has come back slower than perhaps people originally anticipated might happen after the pandemic, and so I think we are seeing signs of that today occurring, which is a very good thing. They were the second largest market for diamond jewelry. Japan is very strong as well right now. But at the retail level, I do think that, again, the mining and the manufacturing sector has been hard hit for the last couple of years. But at the retail level, they have sustained really continually good sales. And just for example, the magnificent jewels auction at Christie's this last week, record prices, and more than 30 of the items featured had GIA grading reports with them. So I think that there are people buying product for all sorts of different reasons, and one of them is asset class.
Susan, there are a lot of other certifying agencies over the world as well. How would you say you stand tall amongst them all?
I think GIA's independence and the fact that we're a not-for-profit organization based in Carlsbad, California, and we have a very simple mission. Our mission is to inspire confidence in gems and jewelry, and that's why we were created in 1931. It's the work that we do decade on decade, increasing technology, using innovation, instrument development, but underpinning everything we do with groundbreaking research that we fund to the tune of tens of millions of dollars a year to ensure consumer confidence, and our education to, again, educate those new leaders into the jewelry industry. Jewelry design is a very big part of what we also are teaching around the world. And so I do think that, you know, that specialization of a niche market, we're a small niche market, the jewelry industry.
When it comes to India, and this is a number guesstimate that I would want, 11% penetration right now. Where do you see it by 2030?
I think it's going to continue to grow. Some estimates I see it is they're saying, talking about doubling that number, right? And especially with the emerging upper middle class, we see there's an opportunity to grow, and especially when you look at the whole category of, you know, natural and laboratory grown. It's going to bring a lot of new customers. It actually is going to be very inspirational for a lot of people to come into the segment. So I think it has a chance to double the numbers in the next few years.
All right, that's a very, very bullish one. But Susan, since you certify so many diamonds, what is your market share here in India? And with the kind of certification that is happening here, do you see a change in the kind of diamonds that Indians are buying?
I do think that, again, it's all about educating. And I think that the retailer is the primary source for education. I was a retailer for 31 years, and I have to say I loved that ability to interact with people as they bought very special items to commemorate milestones in life. And I do think that that sales associate and the training of the sales associate to be able to help a consumer make an educated choice is really, really important and critical. I do think, though, that the market will continue to grow. I think it will evolve. I think consumer tastes and trends change with each generation. But I do think that there is nothing more magical, truly, than a natural diamond that formed 1 billion years ago. And you get to wear an item that's 1 billion years old that came to the surface of the earth through a volcano. I mean, there's no more magical item that you can actually purchase and wear than a natural diamond. But there's a very important place for lab-grown diamonds as well in the marketplace as an affordable product.
Susan, you said, right? Isn't some of those diamonds are older than stars in the universe? So what else you can buy that can have that long story?
And just coming back to that question yet again, so what really are Indians buying? Since you're certifying those diamonds, what would you say Indians understand their diamonds now with what they're buying, with what goes under your lens now?
I think we continue to see the more education happening at the consumer level. I think there's a lot of more opportunity to do it. It's more of a newer thing in India compared to United States or China or Japan, who is a much more mature market in there. So I think there's a lot more confusion about the products in there. So I think our role as a GIA, as an educational institute, is to bring that education to the retailers and the consumers. And more consumers that we can educate, it's going to help the whole sector and bring new consumers into the market. So I think our vision is to ensure that every opportunity we get, we're educate the consumer before they make their purchase, right? So they know what specific product they're buying. Either that could be a diamond, that could be a color stone, pearls, which we as a GIA, we teach, we educate, we research, as well as we grade every one of them. And so through all of those mechanisms, we bring more education at the forefront.
Pritesh, we've seen natural diamonds being around for many, many years. And then, of course, there are more and more newer products coming in. The lab-grown is one part of it. And it's not just for the diamonds. It's also for pearls. There are cultured pearls. And then you have so many varieties of grown emeralds and rubies. And it's a very separate parallel market as well. And the youngsters really seem to be going in for that. How do you see, is only the wealthy and 30 and 40 plus buying diamonds? Is the younger generation going in for the affordable version? How are you looking at it?
I think the trend has been, the younger generation also looking into luxury, right? So I think they also look at it as a luxury part of it. There is a trend for younger generation to go into experience. That's another thing. When they're making their decisions, they're looking to buy a product or go for spending experience. And some of these laboratory-grown synthetic products gives them that opportunity to step in and buy those lower price point items. And then eventually in the future, they'll be able to buy the natural products. So we see that as an entering category for many of the younger generation, younger consumers, that eventually they will make, when they get older, they'll be able to buy more of natural products.
As I wind down this conversation, a final question to you, Susan. So would you say that the natural is what is an investment, a long-term emotional investment, if not that, and the synthetic product perhaps is more of an aspiration, it's something that you experience?
I think that, people buy for all sorts of different reasons. And I do think that there is a wondrous story around natural diamonds, obviously. I've been in the industry a very long time, and it is the product category that the industry has focused on until very recently, when laboratory-grown diamonds in gem quality came to market. But I do think that there are a separation that occurs, and it occurred with cultured pearls and natural pearls in the pricing. When the prices fall so considerably, they coexist and they become very different products. The same thing happened after synthetic rubies and emeralds came to market in the 1890s. By the mid-1920s, they were two very separate categories. And I think the same thing will land with diamonds in the future.
Fair point that. Pritesh, Susan, thank you so much for taking time out, coming out to us, CNBC India studios. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And with that, that's all the time that we have on Commodity Champions. Thank you for watching.